I want to take a moment tonight to say thank goodness for NICS. And those of you that aren't familiar with NICS, NICS is the National Instant Criminal Background Check System that we go through in this country to purchase a firearm. Well, today, once again, the NICS system proved what an invaluable tool that it actually is and how it's well worth the billions of taxpayer dollars that have been spent on it. Just earlier today, the NICS system prevented a very unsavory character, and if you believe what you read on the internet, a possible militant, communist, Satanist douchebag from buying a firearm. And if you haven't guessed so far, that shady character was me. Well, as you can see from this picture here, I went today to try to pick up a gun. I had ordered a gun from Prepper Gun Shop on Tuesday, and it came in today, and I went to pick it up. And on a side note, that's kind of a crazy thing right there. An online gun shop saying they actually had a gun in stock and that they'd ship it quickly, who actually did have it in stock and shipped it quickly? Wow, that's kind of crazy in its own right, but that's not what I'm here to talk about tonight. As you can see here, I had my 4473, I filled it out, turned it in, and I should have had a bad feeling when I could see that even my keys had an angry look on their face. They had kind of a bad feeling about this from the beginning. Well, I filled out my 4473 and turned it out, and the NICS response came back almost immediately. And that response was delayed. Delayed for 15 days. Although I will say on a side note, the owner of the business said I can come back in 3 days and get it. But they delayed me for 15 days. I just wanted to say how refreshing it is to see that this system is there to stop people like me, someone that has a clean criminal history, that is a licensed foster care parent, who's a licensed social worker, someone that's adopted 2 children with extensive background checks to do that, I might add. Someone that donates a lot of their time to work with homeless youth and animal charities. Someone like me, thank God that NICS was there to stop me from buying a gun. Or at least slow me down severely if they have anything to say about it. Now, I'm going to go on record saying that I'm not the biggest opponent of NICS that there is. There's a lot of people that oppose it way more than I do. I think there has to be some kind of system because I think there's reasons to have a system in place. The thing is, this just isn't the right system. The system we need to have in place should do 2 things. It should protect and it should punish. And I'll explain what I mean by that. The system should offer a layer of protection to businesses that sell firearms by being able to say, I vetted this person, they didn't have a felony, therefore I have no liability for what they do with the gun. The NICS system now kind of does that, but it does too much other stuff too. And not only should the system protect the people that are selling the firearms, I think it needs to punish people that aren't allowed to buy firearms. If you're a violent felon, if you're someone that's out on parole and you're trying to prove that you're a good citizen again, and you don't have the right to buy a firearm, I don't want you being able to buy a firearm. I want you to be punished. But in my opinion, the NICS system isn't the way to go about that. Running a background check on every individual, that isn't the way to do it. Just have a list of people that have felonies. If you're on a felons list somewhere, that should be easy for someone to call in and say, hey, I've got this person here. Are they on the felons list? And if they are, you don't sell to them. You don't need to run a background check on them. They're just not on the list. They're either on the list or they're not. That way the seller has something to say, look, I verified they weren't on the list, therefore I'm protected from liability, and people that are being punished receive their punishment. And while we're talking about NICS, let's talk about how it doesn't really do anything anyway. Now, I know they like to say, we had this many denials or this many delays this year. Well, that doesn't mean anything. Just because you deny someone doesn't mean they really weren't able to buy a gun. It just means you denied them and they had to appeal. And in fact, most denials are reversed on appeal. So you're really not doing anything except creating bureaucracy and costing the taxpayers money. Because let's face it, most people that commit crimes with a firearm don't have a criminal record. They're not forbidden from owning a gun. Most violence that occurs with a firearm would not be prevented by a background check, and even the most anti-gun people that are at all reasonable will admit that. But they always use the old thing, well, it's better to do something than nothing, but like I've said before in the past, no, it's better to do nothing than do the wrong thing. And NICS is the wrong thing. There's pretty much 3 categories that you fall into if you're going to commit violence with a firearm. That is suicide. That's violence against yourself. You're not going to stop that whether you have a gun or not. And a background check doesn't stop these people because they usually are not prohibited from buying a firearm. You could be committing violence against your spouse or another family member. And in that case, also, most of these people have never committed a crime before until they did that, until they committed a crime of passion. So a background check wouldn't have stopped it in those cases. Or the third thing is you can be in a gang. People that are in gangs commit a lot of gun violence. In fact, a lot of the gun violence, in some states up to 80% of the gun homicides are gang related. And those people didn't obtain their guns legally or they obtained them before they committed a crime, so therefore they wouldn't have been stopped by a background check either. Now, a lot of people say, well, a background check's a deterrent against people that can't buy a gun from buying a gun. Well, maybe that's true, but even when it is a deterrent, that doesn't mean it stopped any crime, that doesn't mean it stopped any violence, doesn't mean it saved any lives. Just because someone's a prohibited person doesn't mean they were buying a firearm to commit a crime or to kill someone. So there's no verifiable way to say that a NICS system has ever saved a life. But do you know what there are verifiable cases of? People dying while waiting for a NICS check to come back, or dying while they have a waiting period to pick up their firearm. That's verifiable. That has happened multiple times in the past. People are killed by spouses or ex-boyfriends, etc., after they've gone to try to buy a gun and were either delayed or denied. So if you're having to compare the 0 that you can verify that it saved against whatever number it is that we can verify that died, even if it's just one person, well then wouldn't that mean NICS shouldn't exist? Because even if it saves one person, if getting rid of NICS saves one life, because we always hear the argument, if it saves one life, it's worth it, well then getting rid of NICS would be worth it if it saves that one life. So like I say, NICS is a broken system. It's an expensive system. It's a bureaucratic system. It's a system that punishes people that haven't done anything wrong, like myself. It makes people like me that are legal, law-abiding gun owners jump through hoops to exercise our Second Amendment right. And we all know that that great leader of men, Hillary Clinton, said that any right that you have to jump through hoops to exercise isn't really a right. Now, I'm paraphrasing there a little bit because I don't really listen to her, but that's basically what she said. And I would call this hassle jumping through hoops. So I have to go someplace, multiple places, fill out forms, get a criminal background check, be delayed for no reason, then maybe even be rejected or denied. That's jumping through hoops to exercise my right. So therefore, according to Hillary Clinton, that's no right at all, and I'm being infringed upon. So in the end, NICS is a broken system, it's an expensive system, and it does no good. I do say we need some sort of system in place, like I said, to protect and to punish, but NICS isn't it.